Yo, what's good? Yeah, what's good? So my boy Dennis loves to ask me like history questions. He knows I'm a teacher, and he asked an amazing one today. He said, "What lessons could the Denver Broncos take from the Revolutionary War that will allow them to beat the Patriots tomorrow?" Thought that question was incredible. I have three answers for him that I'd like to share with you. So first we got to ask ourselves the question, how is it that the Americans, that the colonists were able to beat the British? The British on paper had every fucking advantage. They had more experienced army, more experienced leadership, more resources, a navy. I mean, like they actually had a unified army, like right? The Continental Army was like a bunch of militias that were joining together initially kind of informally, like loosely. Like it wasn't a unified army the way that the British Army was, like a professionalized, full-on army with the Navy. So on paper, we should have gotten cooked. Like the British should have had a very easy victory here. But there were, of course, some factors that allowed the Americans to win, three of which we're going to draw parallels between them and the Broncos. I should say I'm a Pats fan, so like I hope this doesn't happen. I hope the Pats coast. I hope it's a stress-free. I was like, oh, I want a good game. I don't want a good game. I want 31 nothing with no stress. Having said that, three ways the Broncos could win and their connection to the U.S. Revolution. The first, home field advantage. So, of course, the main advantage Americans had was that they were fighting on their own terrain. They knew the turf. And it's so easy to see how that relates to this Pats Broncos game, whether it's the elevation 5,000 feet above sea level, whether it's the comfort of the routine of just being in your home, your own home. Maybe you're in a hotel that you normally stay at before the game, your normal commute, everything that you're able to do throughout the season, you're able to do here. Whereas the Pats, they're just landing in Denver like on Saturday, sleeping there Saturday night. So like they're landing there today. They might be flying there right now as I record this shit. Arriving tomorrow, that's obviously a deviation from their norm. That is an advantage that the Broncos can utilize. It's the most obvious one. Reason number two, why the Americans, it wasn't US at the time, why the Americans were able to beat the British was the motivation factor. If you're the average British soldier fighting in the colonies in 1776, do you really care that much if the Americans win? Like, what difference does it make in your life? Where if you're one of the colonists fighting, you lose this war, you will get executed. You're probably gonna get executed or have some sort of like very OD punishment. And you're motivated because you think that your freedom's on the line. You think your future's on the line. You're inspired by the promise of a new country, of freedom, of democracy, whatever values you're fighting for. How does this relate to the Broncos? Well, I think there are two ways. The first is the quarterback situation. Unless you don't really follow football, you know that Jared Stidham is starting for the Broncos. So let's just think quarterback matchup for a second. Drake May, whatever happens today, he's set. Really, nothing could go wrong, bar like a catastrophic injury. Now that I've said this out loud, Lord, please don't let Drake May get hurt tomorrow. Please don't do that. Barring that, he's going to get the biggest contract in NFL history probably in 2 years. He's going to be so successful and so famous and so wealthy. Like he's chilling. Jared Stidham, there might be $100 million at stake in tomorrow's game, right? Like if he plays well, if he looks representative, Lord knows if he can get a win, he'll probably get from some stupid team or maybe a smart team, I don't know, a 3 year, 4 year, $25 million year contract. Like it's not hard to imagine that happening, right? So, and if he sucks, like backup for life, you're never getting paid like that. You're going to be a nobody your whole career. Like that's what's at stake for Jarrett Stidham. So needless to say, the motivation there is huge. The Broncos locker room, all these reports are coming out. They love this guy. They literally think he's their guy. I mean, I'm sure they'd prefer it to be Bo Nix, but they're ready to fight and die, as Will Campbell said about Drake May. They're ready to fight and die for Jarrett Stidham. They believe in the kid. They like him. They know what's at stake for him. They know what the media has been saying about him all week. And that gets to the other component of motivation. Sean Payton is a fucking genius at like getting into people's heads. He's got a psychological expertise. He will find a way to motivate these players. Look at everybody saying y'all don't have a chance. Look at everybody picking the Patriots. Uh, I mean, it shouldn't matter. You should be fully motivated going into these games. Every single person on that fucking field tomorrow should be fully motivated. There should be no discrepancy in motivation among any of the players. But I think we all know that's not the case. And I expect a I mean, I love Vrabel. He's going to get the guys ready to go. I think the level of motivation on the Broncos side is going to be next level, especially as you think about the quarterback situation. As I've outlined, the third reason the U.S. was able to win, again, I keep saying U.S., you know what I mean. The colonists, the Americans were able to win. It was help from the French. It was intelligence help. It was munitions help, weaponry overall, actual forces, like actual troops, uh, relationships with indigenous communities they built during the 7 Years' War. They were able to like then you lend to the Americans, right? These French had better connections with a lot of indigenous communities than the actual colonists did. Isn't that fascinating? The connection here. Who's going to be there helping the Broncos tomorrow? It's going to be 60,000 drunk motherfuckers in thin ass air, freezing their whatever's off, screaming the whole time. Easy to dismiss that. It's going to be a significant factor. The idea that the Pats are 5.5 point favorites on the road or whatever the number is right now, it's like, yeah, I get it, Stidham. Y'all are forgetting about home field advantage. It's a real thing. Denver specifically probably is one of the best home field advantages in all of North American sports. Probably in the NFL. I mean, them and Seattle like are toward the top, the two that are going to be home tomorrow, right? Um, Sean Payton's literally out there in the media like, guys, we need you to get loud as they're getting into the huddle. Don't wait for them to break the huddle and go to the line to make noise. You got to be making noise as they're in the huddle to not let Drake May to communicate. They're going to be talking about the silent count. Sean Payton's ready for this. The last time the Patriots, we had to go to Denver for a playoff game, it was in, I don't know exactly, like 2015, 2016, around then. We had to go to a silent count because it was too fucking loud that Von Miller figured out like that, and he was in Brady's shorts all day because he figured out the silent count and because of the crowd advantage. Vance Joseph's top three defensive coordinator in the sport. The idea that they're not going to be ready to take advantage of Patriots pre-snap communication challenges, I feel like it's obvious. This is going to happen. I'm making that parallel assistance from the French. So, in summary, reason number one, home field advantage. It applies for all the obvious reasons, the elevation, being in your routine. The motivation factors, whether it's Stidham personally or the Broncos as a squad, help from the homies. The French or the 60,000 people at Mile High tomorrow. I think this upset could totally happen. I'm not even slightly confident. Thanks for watching. Peace.